weight on.
We're going to go to the left, so we're going to ask Scott to walk with us and just kind of gently lean on us to the right, okay, so that we don't pick up that left turn and we can go right around there. Okay. Feel the basket moving around. Yeah. With this weight on, that tells us that we're plenty light.
Okay, so now you get your hands on.
Yep. Start pushing up. And that'll do. Thank you, brother. See you soon. So we got plenty of lift to get up over him. And we will have that breeze in our face to tell us that we're going to get a little bit of a false lift, so we'll have to pay attention to that. That's fun, isn't it? It is.
Yeah. Makes it seem like you're going up way faster than you probably are.
Right. Okay, so right about now is when you'll start to feel that false lift lead off.
Burn.
Yeah.
Oh, I did feel it. It slowed down.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Oh, that's already on. Great. Okay.
Okay, so I want to do it different than I did last time.
Okay.
So I'm just going to say hot air balloon, Colorado Springs Towers, hot air balloon, November 74008, and then stop, let them respond, right?
Okay, yep.
And then do what? When they come back?
Yeah, they'll probably just say, okay, thanks, and that's...
Colorado Springs Tower, this is hot air balloon, November 74008.
Hot air 740 Springs Tower, Colorado Springs altimeter 3036, good morning.
And then you can say 74008, copy, thank you.
74008, copy, thank you. Okay, that was easy.
Yeah. And so, by responding with the altimeter setting, what he's trying to do is give you a heads up on what the weather's doing.
Right.
Because of course airplane drivers are concerned about that.
What did he say? For his altimeter setting?
I think he said it was 3008.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. And that conversation is also implying things like, you know, I see you, you're welcome here, have a great flight, all of those sorts of things, because he's not saying the opposite of those things.
Right. Like, don't go here or anything.
Okay, so have you thought about where we're going to land?
Well, I'm thinking over like Glen area or Big Johnson Reservoir or Trade Zone, across from the Trade Zone.
Okay. Yep. I don't think we have enough left to get to the Trade Zone, because that would be that direction. And I feel like we're headed this direction over Amazon.
But we're still on this side of our water tower, so we're good.
Yep. And according to the pieball, we think we have maneuverability to our left, right?
Right, so if we climb.
Right, so if you wanted to get to a specific destination, like the Trade Zone, for example, you might intentionally climb up a little bit and get that just to see, is that left hook there? What's it doing? That kind of a thing. Now, since we're reasonably confident we saw two pieballs that did it, my own personal preference, and that's all it really is, would be to ride this drainage until we're clear of the airport.
Okay, and then hop up.
And then we can climb up, so that way, if it does go north or turns weird, you're not hovering right over the runways.
Okay. So just kind of stay level where we're at here.
Yeah, and I think this is great because this will take us right over the Amazon construction. And once we cross over Milton Proby, then we know we're sort of clear of the airport, and if we wanted to, we can turn our, get our left turn there.
I'm pulling the wrong one, aren't I?
I don't know, what are you trying to do?
Turn.
Aha, that's not it.
That's not it. Yeah, that was almost not good, huh?
Yeah, I was wondering which I hear, huh?
I don't want to be descending over a road.
And we were only barely descending, so I think we're, certainly nothing unsafe. Okay, go ahead and let that go now. Because you've got the momentum started, and that allows you to stand in your regular position, because now you can look out this direction, and that'll help you be oriented in the basket. And of course, it'll keep turning, right?
A little too much there.
New construction here, it looks like, huh?
Beautiful day.
It sure is. Better than yesterday's forecast said it was going to be, so. Looks like Dunedin's on the move.
Please from the 358.
It doesn't take much to feel like you get out of practice.
6 South, fast track 23, holding short 3.
Happens to you still?
Ready for departure.
Yes, it would take, in my opinion, for me,
A lot longer than
it takes longer, and I probably regain it quicker. But yeah, currency is a real thing, you know. And if you're flying a lot, you get in the groove, and you're just it's really smooth. But when you go that, you know, legally, it's, you know, 3 takeoffs and landings in 90 days. And I find that if I get to the point where I'm not current, which is pretty rare for me, I do notice I'm a little rusty in just thinking about, you know, where's my radio? What do I do here? And just things aren't as smooth, you know. The stuff that really worries me are the folks that are way out of currency, and then they get current, like just for an event or something, you know. It's like, oh, we got this rally this weekend, so I'm getting current. Because I think currency and proficiency might be different.
3037, good morning.
That's this guy here on the runway, I think. That's an odd place to park. There we go. In general, you'll see the airplanes park in this corner down here, off of the runway until they get permission to launch. Just in case there's an incoming airplane, you don't want to be sitting on the runway, you know.
That's a 25 big, good.
Okay, so we got that. We got a little bit of an increasing left turn, right? Boy, and Scott was right. The reservoir's got a lot of water in it.
It does.
That's great. I'm sure the farmers are happy about that.
Is Victor not correct?
Okay, and Children's up. Okay, so notice how it's really hard to tell what they're doing, but see how Dunedin's a little higher than us, and it doesn't feel like they're getting this drainage.
Right.
And so I think that's the power of staying low here, is we're getting out into the open while the drainage exists. As opposed to, it looks like even they're launching in a different ground wind than we had. And I believe, I mean, again, I can't quite tell what they're doing, but I believe that the difference is timing. We've been in here 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay, so when you say that you were feeling nervous, was it just kind of feeling rusty, or was there something specific
Rusty.
you were worried about?
A little rusty.
Yeah.
Our little school lesson that we had kind of showed me how behind I am on the studies part.
Okay.
Kind of hurt my confidence a little bit.
Okay. So that's a case notice that we can hear the airport responding, but we didn't hear them call.
Right.
So
good chance they're not hearing us.
Enjoy. Fast track 23, contact departure.
Yeah, the school stuff, I think that you're not as far along as you might like to be. I have no doubt that you can pick it up. I mean, just watching you process through the logic of each of those, no problem at all. I think that doing it in parallel with Dave and Danita probably feels a little bit, I don't know, nerve-wracking maybe.
I felt like I was cheating.
Because they're on top of it.
Right.
You know, to them this was a refresher.
Right.
So.
Tequila Sunrise, Tequila Chaser, read you loud and clear.
Keep your waters on ice.
That's right, we forgot to grab the water. That's funny. Doesn't make any sense if the balloon spins, right? Does it?
Yeah, crazy.
And Murphy's Law says it's always going to try to be backwards.
Right. I can definitely see a benefit in dual turning vents.
To just get that little tweak now and then.
Stop this turn here.
Right, you'd want to just nudge it a little bit right here, wouldn't you?
Seemed like it cooled pretty quick. Temperature inversion maybe?
Maybe. I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like we might also be slowing down a little bit. Do you get that sense?
Yeah. Knots.
Okay. Well, this is just turning into Amazon City over here, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
Probably good for jobs and the community and all that. It's just a shame that they had to do it in one of our landing spots.
Right. And then not be so friendly about it.
Yeah, when I talked to the GC of this construction, he seemed a lot more friendly than we've seen from the first guy, you know. So I don't know that anybody has really gone in there and pushed it at all, but when I talked to him on the phone, I think it was before Labor Day, or sometime in the summer, I don't quite remember, but his commentary was really just make sure you keep an eye out on our cranes and try not to land on the property because we got a lot of stuff moving around.
That's understandable.
Yeah, and I think that's totally reasonable. Okay, so notice that we went a little higher, like we're over the parking lot, and now you've dropped down again, and it feels like we've got a little bit of our left back, like right on the ground here. It feels to me like there's a little bit of a left turn.
Why
Maybe.
is that?
Probably just temperature.
Yeah, and terrain and
right, because you think of the lake being the low spot, and so in general the air is going to flow to the low spot as long as it's cool and we're still getting drainage. And then once it warms up, then kind of all bets are off at that point.
Well, they're definitely going more east.
From AT, be advised, 2 below. 500, contact departure 124.0.
Yeah, I certainly don't get the sense that they're chasing us. And from a legality standpoint, I don't think of our flight track so far as being what I would call really congested areas. There's no people, there's no activity.
Because we would need to be 1,000 feet
Right.
if we were over congested.
And you know, obviously that's a pretty debatable rule, because congested is not defined anywhere, and there's, depending on who your FAA inspector is in that moment, there's kind of two working definitions. One is if there's a human anywhere around you that might be anywhere close, then that's congested. You got to be 1,000 feet. It's not a very practical definition, but it is one that they hold. And the other one is what I would call more around the intent of the law, and that is if we had a power plant failure or a fuel leak or some emergency to land, are we low enough that we could land safely, or is it too congested?
I think we're good now.
I think we're good, and I think in a big way we've been good the whole flight. Now, of course, the premise of the 1,000 feet originally was, if you're flying an airplane, 1,000 feet gives you a lot of distance in a glide.
Right.
So that even if you're over a city, you could probably glide out to the outer skirts or whatever. That doesn't really apply to balloons, but the premise is, are you flying close to the ground where you're going to irritate people, or where you can't execute a safe landing?
I definitely like this direction better. It feels comfortable here.
Yeah.
Versus when I'm having to turn around and go.
Looks to me like they got this building pretty well sealed up.
Yeah, it's big.
It is.
And then I'm curious what they're doing with all this other stuff.
Oh, down there?
Yeah.
Well, I read an article, and I don't know exactly where it was going to be, but I read an article that there was going to be a big hotel put in here somewhere. Maybe that's that. When I read the article, I got the sense that it was much more up here, sort of like between us and Northrop Grumman.
Right.
But it's it's hard to tell, so I don't know. That's just the only active dirt work I see. Okay, so now in the flight is typically when I would start thinking about or experimenting with what are my winds up higher.
Okay.
Partially because we want to know, is there a left turn or right turn that we can work with? And also that, not always, but it suggests that that wind that's up at, say, 500 feet will probably be what we're dealing with when it comes to landing. So let's get an awareness of what it is.
Okay. So just climb up?
I think so. Temperature, by the way.
47.
Nice. Because I see these guys up here, and it feels to me like they don't have the south getting to us. And I feel like Danita especially has gone to the east. Dave almost looks like he's doing nothing, maybe going north, I can't tell.
So 500 feet would be about 6,400 feet above sea level?
Yeah, I wasn't watching exactly where we were. Because we were headed about 160 degrees, right? And so now we're starting to get a left turn. We're seeing the 143, still at 5 knots. So, and you could even... just perceive that because we were going to sort of the
Yeah.
right-hand edge of the lake. Now we're going this way, which, given the fact that the reservoir is now off limits, at least mostly, that left turn puts us out in the trade zone and the field south of trade zone, which is, to me, pretty encouraging.
So I can keep climbing?
I think if you want to, and let's just keep watching, do we turn north? Do we keep this track? Because right now this 135, 140 is a great track.
Right.
And as we climb, let's see if we get it all the way looped back or if this is our track, that kind of thing.
Okay, so just about 200 feet ascent.
That'd be perfect. Because 200 feet a minute gives you enough time at each layer to
Stop.
kind of get a feel for what's really going on, and like you say, stop it. You're not screaming up and then, oh crap, I'm 3 layers behind and I didn't notice it, kind of a thing. Because we're not in a hurry, right? We're not trying to get some aggressive turn here. This is an interesting sort of concrete foot.
Yeah, that could be where the hotel's going.
That's what I was just thinking, you know. I mean, right now it looks like they've got almost like a parking lot laid, and then they're laying all the sewer and stuff inside. I wonder what's going on. They've transformed this into a roundabout. That's a pretty significant turn.
Yeah, 118.
Nice. Okay. So you might be right. We might be able to get to something like trade zone. So something to be aware of, though, is now we've got this turn. We're going almost due east, right? The temptation is to believe that if we drop down, we'll get that south again. And that might be true right now, but it probably won't be true in half an hour.
Right, it's definitely the color will change.
Because everything was moving pretty slow anyway, and so now you get the feel of, oh, okay, I'll go over here a little bit and get that south, but it'll be gone. Because we anticipate the higher level winds will gradually drop as the drainage fades away. So again, this is sort of a personal preference, but think about where do you want to land and what is it going to take to get there? And then is that available now? Is it going to be available later? Those kinds of questions.
Well, I think we could maybe, see, I don't know how, I'm struggling on that part to figuring about if I drop down here, you know, am I going to be able to catch that way? So if I wanted to, like, say, land in across from the trade zone. So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So let's work the problem with the data that we have now, regardless of what we think is going to be true in the future. Right now we're headed this way-ish, and you see that little cluster? That cluster is the trade zone.
Okay.
And just the field to the south of that, or to the right of it, is the actual trade zone launch field.
Okay.
So, let's say that we wanted to aim for the trade zone or the field to the south of the trade zone. Then right now, it feels like we're almost dead on, but maybe a little left of it.
Okay.
Is that what it feels like to you?
Well, no, I was thinking maybe we need to be up going more that way. So
Oh, do you?
we
Okay.
drop down. But I mean, I'm just guessing.
Well, let's just think about it. What are we headed to right now? Do we feel like if we headed this direction, are we going to be right of it or left of it?
I think we will be left of it.
Okay. And so, if you had to find a right turn, where would you go look for that?
Lower.
Okay. So, given the data we have right now, if you're shooting for that, you would drop down, take the right turn, and then pop back up here and get the left, right?
Okay.
So that's how you would work that right now.
Okay.
And then you have to think about, we could have an attitude of, well, it doesn't matter if we go south first and then east, or east first and then south, right? Doesn't really matter. The, triangle's a triangle, it's going to work the same. So then you start asking the question, which wind is more likely to be there when I go to land? And given the drainage pattern and our sense that that was light, the forecast has winds coming out of the south later on, I believe my gut tells me that that south won't be there if we want it a half an hour from now. So then I would be tempted to say, okay, well, if that's going to fade, then I'll take it now
And catch it and then pop up.
and then take that east later, because then that east will still be there and the east will gradually come down. So it's even possible that if I ride the south now, it might just gradually turn me in there and I never have to climb at all. We don't know. But counting on let's fly over the power lines and then drop down and get our south, that south may or may not be there by then, because that's another half an hour flight over there.
Right. So we should probably get lower. And
I think that's going to make life easier. And by doing this little test, we figured out what the wind is, because we can't. It's hard to perceive what they're doing. And by doing, even if we pick up that drainage and we go the same direction we were, we've now avoided this neighborhood, and we don't feel like we're kind of buzzing. Because if you look at Danita right over here on the warehouses, as she's dropped down, she is starting to get that, and she's coming closer to us, right? I don't see Dave. Do you? Oh, I do. He's up and to the right. Yeah, he sort of blends in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and ease down. And we anticipate as we drop down, we'll get that right turn and we'll go towards the lake, right?
Okay.
And what I'd like to do, if you're willing, is take this, you know, a nice steady descent, whatever rate you're comfortable with, and then we don't, depending on the speed, we don't have to land, but I'd like you to set up for an approach.
Okay.
And think about, given an easy descent rate and get the turn and all that, what would be a convenient spot to land without having to work real hard at it, you know?
Okay.
It's like in a state of emergency, we could just sort of vent like hell and be somewhere down in here, and that'd be fine. But go ahead and set yourself up for an approach. If it's real slow, I'd like to land. If it's not, we'll just go past it.
And I don't need a vent. I can just let it naturally cool.
Correct. Because we're not in a hurry. We don't need a real crisp turn.
I mean, I'd still, at this rate, I'd like to be on the other side of that road.
Okay. And so, yeah, now you can burn if you want to slow that descent rate out and give yourself a little bit more momentum. And we feel the wind in our face now.
So wind shifting.
That tells us that we're coming into, at a minimum, a slower layer. And as we come, feel that we're getting our left turn here.
I guess I could be on this side of the road.
Because you're getting quite a bit of turn, aren't you?
No direction.
Don't let the descent get ahead of you. So we thought we had more time with the drainage. But maybe not.
Burned a little bit.
Probably because we're coming into the cooler lake.
Yeah. I noticed that because I really jumped up just now.
With what seemed like a really minor
Right.
overburn, right? So, yeah, and the thing you got to watch out for now is potentially overventing and getting a real oscillation going. So go ahead and burn now. So now you're going to smooth it out a little bit.
Changing my direction too quite a bit. we're good to put it down right here.
You could be. Now the challenge is, as we're going this direction, headed towards the road and the light posts, maybe not great. You know, we're moving pretty slow. But if we were to continue this track, I would argue a sort of a more conservative approach would be go to the other side of the road. And that way, you know that you're not headed into an obstacle until, you know, another half a mile away kind of thing.
When I use the turning vent, does it help? Will it help an overburn?
A little bit,
Just
yeah.
a little.
It's not as effective as a vent from the top, but it does let heat out.
Man, so this is just hitting a different temperature layer is what's happening here, or did I
think
just
so.
really overburn? Because we're really climbing.
Yeah, I think we still have that real thin, cold layer on the ground, because the ground's still cold from overnight.
And almost a hover.
Yeah, okay, burn now. That way we can avoid getting that descent going. Keep an eye on the street lights. Nice, that's good. It's tempting to burn again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep. And notice how we've just about leveled out at this point. We've got a nice little track across the road here. You know, obviously we've got the big street lights right under us. We've got street signs right here. You see the corner street sign there. And then that whole field looks completely empty, no obstacles at all. So what I'd like you to do, if this holds, is go ahead and creep across the road and then land in that field somewhere. Okay? And I would say sooner in the field rather than later.
And then I can just stay level right up, and then when I get past the road, I can start to vent.
Or you'll notice that, I mean, the balloon cools fairly quickly. So
Pulling now, it feels right.
yep, it is. Prevent the cooling.
Keep it warm.
Yep. Because the biggest struggle with landing is you let the balloon get ahead of you and then you recover and you overburn, overvent, and it makes the whole thing tricky. Whereas if you can just keep it warm and ease in, things are, I mean, obviously that's more challenging. But clear that big street light.
Yeah.
There's this sign up in front of us here. No real obstacles out here. From an easiness standpoint, if this holds, I would probably go for on top of the ridge rather than below. It doesn't much matter, but you know, it's just kind of a preference in that sense that you've got a little bit more running room without a mid-range obstacle. So that was a little bit of an overburn there. Not much, but a little bit. vent line in hand. You do, okay.
A little overburned.
That's all right, so go ahead and vent it out then. Okay, yep, that's great. And now I'll be ready to burn. And burn. Okay.
Stay on the ground or?
Oh, that's okay. Let's keep flying. What do you think about that?
Okay.
Okay, nice approach. How'd you feel about that?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
And you can come in real easy like that is nice. It's the coming in when you're, fast.
Yeah.
That's where I'm a little nervous.
It's
about
the
that.
same procedure.
Just a little faster.
It's just a little faster. Okay, so let's think about our flight path.
Okay.
This ground wind has changed now, right?
Yep.
So we think we don't have the drainage to the lake anymore.
Right.
So now we're climbing, and so tell me a little bit about your sort of direction, strategy, where are you headed?
Well, we're kind of headed to the north now.
Okay.
Northeast a little bit. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I don't know how long have we been flying for?
We lit the burners 45 minutes.
That's the runway. So we kind of want to either be before it or up past it, huh?
Mm-hmm. So I would say you got a couple of key options in terms of strategy. One would be to sort of call it a day and say, let's land in this area. We know it's easily accessible. We're off the airport. This would be totally fine. Or if you felt like you needed more time, then the question becomes, could we pop up to that 500-600 foot level and get out east, sort of near the trade zone, Mark Scheffel kind of. I'd be comfortable with either. The challenge is the mid-range, or sort of the indecision would get us in trouble.
Right.
So I would say either let's commit to this area or commit to going over there. Either way would work.
Well, I'm okay with landing now.
Okay, yeah. So, do you want to land in front of the parking lot, in the parking lot, on the other side? What are your thoughts?
Probably on the other side of the parking lot.
Okay,
Just to get away from all the...
sure.
I'm going to try to turn it to where I'm in the right position.
Now remember, last time we descended, we got a little bit of a left turn right on the side. So we'll have to be aware of that.
We don't hit the building.
Exactly. But that approach that you just had over the road was absolutely perfect. And now we want to do a similar thing over here, because that open space between us and Milton Proby would be ideal, right?
Right.
We know there's great access.
And so I can just keep it level going this way, and as soon as I get past my last obstacle, I can start venting and come down.
Yep. And right now we've got a track that's right of the building and right of that tower that's on the other side of the building. So that would be a good path. Okay, and now you notice that we're starting to just get a little bit of a left turn. Totally fine.
Keep it warm in case I have to pop up.
Yep. Yeah, that's the key, is never let the balloon get ahead of you.
A little more left than I like.
Yeah? So what are you going to do about that?
Well, it's kind of deceiving. I think I should pop up.
Okay. So as you pop up, we expect that we'll get a little bit of a right turn, which could potentially get us out into that open space, but it may not be enough with the building and the tower. We might end up on the other side of the street, which to some degree is, I think it's okay because it's in that kind of open space right off the road. Just the more we get into that area, the trickier everything gets. Make sense?
Yeah, so I need to be in that field past the road, ideally, or before the road.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we're going to get enough of a right turn, but we can try it. I think climbing up was the right decision in that moment. Give it a little heat, make sure you don't lose your climb. Don't know what the obstacles look like right on the other side of the building here. We think it's probably good, but we'll have to just sort of be ready to call an audible. There is that paved road right there, which is super convenient access. And as we're going down this path, that radio tower or whatever it is probably our biggest concern, because now that we're higher, we can don't see any real obstacles. No fence on the road, no power lines. We have street lights on Melton Proby, and then this radio tower, and then of course the building here. At these speeds, I think we have enough space to tuck it in there just fine.
Before the road?
Yep. And so now you... Yep, and keep close eyeballs on this building. And... Yep. Because we don't want to get too high because it makes the landing difficult, but we obviously don't want to hit it. It's good.
It's easy to overburn.
It is. Especially when you get around an obstacle like this, it makes you nervous, right? That's okay. No, that last burn was perfect. Because now sort of visualize your glide slope. We're going almost perfectly level. Going to clear the building just fine. And so now you want to start thinking about letting the balloon cool. You don't want to trim the edge of the building off or anything like that, because there's more space here than you think there is. Okay, small burn right there. And so now you feel how we're just coming over the hump and starting to glide down. That's perfectly fine. You want to keep close eyes on this edge so that you got a good feel of your glide. So a little burn.
Do it without watching my instruments.
Okay, that's perfect. Your instruments have no value at this time. This is about the time that you remind your passengers to bend your knees, hang on, that kind of thing. And from an approach perspective, you want to do exactly the same thing you did before. Keep this glide slope all the way down, and then let it creep to the road, because then you can stop anywhere, as opposed to aiming for the road on your glide.
Right.
Go ahead and get your arm around the post. Nice.
Just nice and easy.
Yep. Did you see the yellow and black post out here? Okay. Just make sure you got eyes on it.
I think I'll be on the ground before I get to there.
Okay.
One tank too.
For its age, this balloon is still pretty efficient. Okay, now vent. There you go. And make sure you hold that vent. And that'll let it sit. Nicely done. Very nice. So, inconvenient timing that's the second that the tank went empty, right?
Right.
That's, you know.
But I was right. I mean, the southern one was good to go. And
go ahead and let's top out. Make sure you don't over deflate. Yep, that's perfect. Yeah, excellent approach. And now look at the building. You're right in the middle. This is absolutely perfect. So here's your sort of trivia question. Our last landing, we were going that direction. This has been just a few minutes later. Why did we get such a hard hook?
because of the terrain.
I think it's because of the terrain and the shadow.
Oh, and the shadow, yeah,
because
cooling it off.
That's still cold, and so you're still getting some weird activity there.
It's crazy that it would affect that, isn't it?
It is so powerful on calm days, right? If it was windy, the wind is actually doing something. But here, all of the wind we've been in today is all terrain driven, and so it's reasonable to expect that things are going to be kind of light and variable like that. And learning how to watch the colors and the shadows, that will give you a sense of, oh, I'm going to get a hook on there. So, that was an awesome landing.
Thank you. Felt pretty good.
Okay, so I saw Scott up in here, and so, oh, and he's just coming down the road now. I think we could lay it in this field,
We can get a little closer.
or we can walk it up to the road and lay it down sort of on near the road, because I don't think this little road gets much traffic at all.
Right.
And it just keeps it that much cleaner, and you know,
So just kind of keep it buoyant until he gets out here.
yeah, I think so. And if we felt like things were sort of rocking and rolling,
We could walk it ourselves.
I could get out and walk it, you know, but I think he's right there, we're stable, and then I think just walking it up to the road would be better, because it keeps the vehicle out of the grass, you know. Full moon is pretty cool, isn't it?
I can't wait to see some balloons flying over
I
that
know,
thing.
me too. We ran some tracks this morning, and it's looking really
Yeah.
solid.
What time do you think you'll be done in the day?
Well, the hope is that we're going to launch about 7:30. So that way there'll be sun on the ground, because we got to wait since we're going to be in the shadow of the mountain. At the speeds we're seeing, I would anticipate it being somewhere on the order of probably 45 minutes to the peak, and then another 45 minutes out. So then that gets us landing about 9 o'clock. Ideally, actually right out here is what it looks like. That speed is diminishing a little bit, so we may not get this far out. Like we didn't last time. Last time we landed sort of in the south of town, but right now the trajectories are looking like stay up a little bit higher, get out here and make it easy on us. Hello, my friend. We were thinking of walking up to the road, keep the truck off the grass.
So I'm a little parched.
Now, how warm are you? If I get out, are you going to have lift?
No.
Okay. But did you feel the basket stretch a little bit?
Yeah.
So it's real close. Okay, we'll walk you up there if you want to. You do the lifting and I'll...
light.
I think we'll head to the front of the truck. So I see Dave. I don't know what happened to the over here. Oh yeah. So she took that higher approach that we were talking about towards the trade zone area.
Not a real road.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Travis? Where would you like to be?
Well, I think on the grass would be a little better to lay it down.
Okay.
So we're not walking on the balloon or, you know, milking it on the road.
Yep. And from my perspective, I think you're right. Rather than trying to pull it down the road, which is a crosswind anyway, in an ideal world, I would leave the basket on the pavement and then tip it over so that when we tip it back up, we can just drive right up to it.
Okay.
That makes sense? So I think this would be fine. Gives us plenty of room over there. We've got these two small hazards over here, so we would want to lean a little bit to our left, but I think we're good there.
Okay.
Okay, so before we lay it down, we want to shut off our pilot light for sure, and then shut down our fuel. Okay, now cool that down. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to rotate the basket just a little bit. Here we go.
Here you go, Scott.
Okay, and it's 8:40. We had about 54 minutes. Okay, I'm going to lean your basket over. Stay here. That's right.